outside the factory. You can see there's an office here marked publicity. Well, the MG Car Club was based out of the publicity department for its first years. Today that's someone's kitchen. And behind in the background you can see the Pavlova Leatherworks, and you can see there's open countryside behind here. Yeah. By the 1940s and 1950s, the Pavlova Leatherworks have been swallowed up by MG, and new factory buildings have been put up on this far side. One thing you'll notice is that everyone you can see in this photograph is a man. Well, there were lots of women working at the factory, but when they chose to take this publicity photo, the story goes that there was an order sent around the factory that no women were allowed to appear in this photograph. And if you look up here, you can just see two outlines of what look like ladies. Now, the story goes that these two women were a bit upset that they'd been told they weren't allowed in the photo, so decided to stand at the top of the fire escape to be in the photo. Of course, photos back then took a long time to expose. They stood there and realised, hang on a minute, we're going to get in trouble because they'll see our face and they'll know it was us. So they decided to move at the last minute, which is why they're blurry. So some people think they're ghosts.
First instance of a photobomb. Huh?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the factory was here from 1929 to 1980. Produced some wonderfully iconic cars, the Triple M cars, those T-types. That I was fortunate enough to be able to drive a TD around Delhi when I was in India back in April. But also, what a lot of people don't realise is that during the war, during World War II, the factory here in Abingdon produced light tanks and armoured cars. One of my favourite stories, I only found out this week, there's a house towards the end of Cemetery Road that a lady was living in during the war. Well, a French-Canadian tank driver had collected a brand new tank from the factory, drove it down this road, got to the end of the road and got his controls mixed up, and instead of turning left and going up the road, turned a hard right and crashed through the front of her house. So this guy stumbles out of the tank speaking French. She doesn't speak anything other than English, hears a foreign language and assumes it's the Germans, they've invaded, grabbed her bedpan from the wall and beat this guy with the bedpan until he was unconscious. The other driver in the tank jumped out as well, grabbed his gun, had no bullets for it, but grabbed his gun to wave it at her to get her to calm down. This didn't work, and in the end, the factory manager, a chap called George Proper, came running down the road and said, Elsie, he's on our side, he's one of us, stop. And this poor French-Canadian guy was sprawled out unconscious with these dents all in the back of this bedpan where she'd beaten him with it. So there's all sorts of weird and wonderful, and I only found that out this week. So on the wall here you'll see Cecil Kimber, who was the father of MG. He took up a job as a sales manager selling Morris cars in Oxford at Long Wall Street. He was very good at selling cars, but he felt that MG could do more, or Morris cars could do more. So he set about tuning and improving Morris cars. And the first car was a Morris Super Sports, which is known as Old Number One, which you'll get to see at the British Motor Museum. That car was very successful. Kimber built it for a specific thing, the Land's End Trial. Now, trialling was very, very popular in the UK at the time, and it's still popular today. You still get, many of our members still undertake trials, which is to drive up a steep, muddy, slippery surface. Kimber built this car specifically for the Land's End Trial, took his car down there, his first ever time in competition, and won a gold medal. And that was where MG really began. So from then on, Morris cars became more and more, performance versions of Morris cars became more and more popular. And eventually it got to a point where the Morris garages, which was his premises in Oxford, was purely producing these cars. Now the funny thing is, him and William Morris were very, very good friends. But William Morris wasn't really that bothered about what Kimber was doing with these tuned cars. As far as William Morris was concerned, just make the things and sell them. I don't care if they're quick, I don't care if they handle, just sell me cars. So MG became more and more popular, and it got to the point where eventually in 1929, Morris said, enough's enough, go and do your own thing. And MG moved to Abingdon, set up its own factory, and then the rest, as they say, is history. If we come through this way,